Economic Development Advisory Council. We have a quorum.
Yep.
And the first order of business is the approval of minutes from July 16, 2026. After we have a motion, I need a second.
Second.
With a motion in a second. We'll do the in-room,
Yep.
contingent and then online contingent. All in favor, aye. Then online.
Brad
Aye.
and Ron. Ron,
Ron, can you hear us? You need to unmute.
So I guess I started early.
Well, Courtney's here. We can ask her. And here comes.
All right, let's table that for a minute.
Okay.
I'll have to table financial reports for the same reason, so let's go to new business.
Okay, so the first thing in new business, I got one thing out of order, but you guys should have something in front of you. Remember, we were one of two counties awarded the right program. We have begun community engagement with that program. And there's multiple ways that different groups of county stakeholders are looking to get engaged with the public. This is one of them. And I'm using you guys to extend the people that we hear from. And this is a very simple exercise that you can do throughout the meeting tonight. You don't need to put your name on it. And you can just leave it here. And all we're doing is looking for you to fill in one, something you like about Warrick County, two, something you love about Warrick County, and three, something you would like to love. And so that can be, think about those kind of things. Like to love is maybe something that we could do a better job of, or something you like to appreciate, but maybe need some attention or care. So think about what that means to you during this meeting. Fill them out and then just leave them with us and we will go from there. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, with Courtney here, you want to go backwards?
Yeah, so we have everybody, yes, Courtney, we have a motion and a second. So let's do this
On the
again for
minutes.
the approval of the minutes of July 16th. So all in favor, aye.
Aye.
And online, we have already had one yay. And then
and Jenna
Yes.
Okay,
and Ron.
okay.
Okay, well, the motion passes.
Yeah, move on.
So now we have financial reports.
Okay, financial reports, you guys see this in your packet, made a couple of just minor little tweaks. We're gonna talk about the Scales Lake Gatehouse project later. I put that out of green and into white because those are funds in a project that's moving forward. We're going to the September meeting, we'll talk about it later, but that's an actual amount. Our old placeholder was $700,000. It's gonna be 640 something, and also county council approved 2026 work bucks dollars. So that came out of the green. Just remember, green are kind of placeholders for things that we may move forward on, or that we're kind of just in planning and forecasting mode.
Need a motion for approval of the financial report.
Motion. I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Online.
Brad,
Aye.
Jenna,
Yes.
Ron.
Motion carried.
Okay, so you guys are gonna fill this out during the meeting. The next one is, I'm not sure if we talked about it in EDAC or RDC last month, but we did talk about it last month. That one of the projects we've been talking about for a while, the Dominion off of Brim Road, they had a change in scope. They had, some talk about their project, and they were not going to be able to meet the deadline for the Ready Award that they received. And so Paul and I talked about it a little bit, and in order to give our board just a little more context and background, I just wanted to give Paul a couple of minutes to kind of update this group.
Yeah, I won't spend too long. And in fact, when I was thinking about what I would say to this group, it took me back to being a surgeon in training. When things don't go perfectly, we have a monthly conference we call Morbidity and Mortality, where we get to talk about when things go wrong, and then we can learn from mistake, so here we go. So the nidus of the Dominion project came because there was a desire for our investor group to do a dense mixed-use community in Newburgh in a place of prominence. And the model for me personally, the idea came, my daughter had lived for a time in the ironworks on the north side of Indianapolis. So if you know that development, know that that was the inspiration for what we did. To us, early in the process, we thought a parking deck was important to the project to create the density. So that was important. We had Hafer involved, engaged to help us sort of do the planning. They never got to the architectural piece. We had civil engineering on board, and people were really working with us at risk on this. The idea was residential, office, hotel, restaurant, and retail. You know, you can never put an exact dollar figure on this, and we wanted to have green space. That was the whole point of the parking deck, so that it wouldn't look like, you know, Manhattan. You can't put a dollar figure on this, but we thought at the time that it would be about $300 million in total investment. It was going to be done in 3 phases. So the tax incentive piece of this was $5 million from Ready and a matching amount from the county, which seemed to be appropriate, at least when this thing started in 2022. We built a pro forma in 2022, and we engaged a development partner for phase 1, which was going to be the multifamily piece. That developer was Shield Sexton in Indy, and they've done this before. In fact, they've done something in Vanderbilt County in the recent past. So the hurdles that we encountered were that site, the 19 acres that are at Grimm and Indiana 66, it's not shovel ready. So that turned out to be to some degree a barrier. The parking cost of the parking deck, there was absolutely no way, we knew this, but there was no way to monetize that investment. It was expensive, way more expensive. I knew it was going to be expensive. It was more expensive than I thought it would be. And lastly, if you, for multifamily housing, you base everything with your internal rate of return on the rent rates. Well, guess what? We can't rent apartments in Newburgh at the same rate that they do in Carmel. So as this thing played out, then the cost of construction increased, and pretty soon we had a funding gap that. Well, and the one last thing I wanted to say is we were going to reduce our the cost of the site prep by a land swap between Ascension and our investment group with the property just to the west, because the dirt there was right there. So that was going to really help a lot. That Ascension had leadership changes. There's no excuses here, but it just never happened. Still hasn't happened to this day. So fast forward to where we are today, cost of construction higher, land swap decision never got done. The capital stack gap got to 4 million. At least was our latest estimate. And in the end, that $4 million gap pretty much killed everything. I mean, it killed phase 1, but it's going to kill it all. So that's the reality. Am I frustrated? I mean, we worked a long time on this. I know that this room would really love to have some high-end, nice gateway to our, apologies to the Deaconess team, but that's the gateway to our community. So yeah. What do I think is going to happen? I'm not sure. I know that we, kind of when you put it all out there and then you work hard on something for a long time, we're pretty much spent. I hate to see it become a big box store, but that's probably the most likely outcome. So that's the story in a nutshell. Just too much cost to get to a situation that we felt comfortable. And sometimes the hardest decision in these situations where real money's involved is what not to do, not what to do, because there was no way that we could. We didn't feel the risk balance the reward. So
Okay,
I'd be happy to take questions,
No.
but that's the situation.
anyone have any questions for Paul? I appreciate you sharing. Paul,
Thank you.
some of that context and background. Okay, I'm gonna pivot, but while we're on here, so remember that there was a Ready project funding awarded for this project. That freed up a very short window for what the region was gonna do with those Ready funds. Because there are deadlines associated with those, about them being obligated and about the financing and about being completed in a certain amount of time. So a very quick update is that we've been talking about this 300-acre mixed-use district that we, or Redevelopment Commission, have an agreement on phase one. This is also a giant lift that's gonna be done in pieces in multiple phases. And so, I went with Epworth Development LLC as really the only project we had that had already public funding support, because Ready is 2020-60. So you need local dollars in a very short window. It was the only project that fit that guideline. And locally, the local SWRTA board that makes those decisions, but then sends them to the state. That SWRTA board approved a week and a half ago a $3 million award for that project. It will still have to go be validated by Ernst Young and the state and a subrecipient agreement. But personally, it moves a project that we've been working on forward. And it keeps some of those dollars in Warrick County, which I think is a positive. Don't have a timeline on the state's decision on that. Could be Monday, could be 2 months from now. But that's a quick update and a little bit of a pivot there.
I don't know if you guys have seen or not, that dirt is being moved on the 294 acres now. Looks like they're working on the southern end primarily right now, but.
So, okay. Shifting gear again, just a quick update for this group. We've had a couple things in here with NDOT and transportation, and a couple of them are moving slightly. So on the left-hand side of the screen up there, we've been talking about, this is the Lloyd for All. It was a multimodal, think biking and walking connectivity study that was in Vanderburgh County, that they expanded into that red box that you see here, into Warrick County. And the next meeting, I just found out today, is going to be September 1st at Crossroads Church. And that's gonna be a public meeting to go and weigh in on their new, this is an older map, this is a map that actually Courtney and I made some connections for them and put some stuff together, but they'll have new maps. And we want as many people in Warrick County. Remember, this goes through Vanderburgh County. They're trying to catch up in Warrick County. It's kind of these meetings. It's now or never to speak our mind. I don't have a time yet because they basically said they just got approval and they just got the September 1st date held. So as soon as I have a time, I will let you know. And if you care about this area, personally, recreationally, work-wise, you want people that are engaged to show up, because they're gonna start looking at key projects and places to make connections, and then they're gonna work on prioritizing some of those pieces. So that's on the left. On the right, if you remember, probably back in February was the last time we had a conversation with NDOT on the 3 intersections that they wanna make major improvements to. Their improvements were boulevard lefts, no left turns, an R cut, and that's Bell in 66. That's Epworth in 62, and that's Alcoa Highway in 66 out front of Kaiser and Alcoa. Well, they were gonna get a consultant on board and up to speed, and that was supposed to happen in July. And so the MPO is trying to get the next set of meetings with that group so that we can offer our concerns and we can decide whether we want to support these changes or whether we want to say the county is not supportive of these changes. So again, I was hoping by today that the NPO would have that meeting dialed in. And we would have already had conversation one with the consultant, but they just haven't gotten that together, but it's coming soon. So we're gonna re-engage with those three intersections, so if you have a concern about those intersections, certainly reach out. I think the more people, the more stakeholders that are involved, from what we learned at Epworth and from what we learned at Rim Road. It really helped to engage the schools, first responders, Deacon at Epworth Deaconess, Epworth Christian. So just think about those three intersections.
The middle photo, can you repeat? Where's the
So-
location?
The middle photo right here is Epworth and 62, so Morgan.
Oh, okay.
As you travel north on Epworth. And this top one is Bell and 66, and that solution would be no left turns from any of the four directions, so that's at Walmart. You would basically turn, you're coming from the south, you would turn right and go through a U-turn in order to take that left, and every direction has a little different version of how to take a left turn.
What's the reality that if you did that, all you're doing is pushing people to a different intersection?
So
Like at Liver Frame or wherever else you can turn.
you're gonna have people that don't like it. I'm sure there's.
So what I'm saying is, are you really solving the problem or just moving the problem somewhere else?
You turn, if you turn right, that you're gonna go all the way to 261.
No, you turn and you go through a U-turn.
Okay, so they're gonna make it, cause right now it's all concrete.
There will be a new U-turn.
Okay.
Proposing a J turn.
Okay, that makes a little.
And so you
sense,
stay
but
within
if
that
there's-
intersection, but people do avoid
Yeah, that's right.
things that they don't like, to your point.
Yeah.
They would tell you they're making these, all three of these, they were making because of safety. And they'll use crash data, and they're, they have pretty good crash data. The issue is at like Bell and 66, the crashes are rear end. And left turns don't, that's a speed issue. And a light timing issue, and a not paying attention issue. T-bones and other things can be left turn
Yeah.
issues. But the majority of the actions there are rear end, which I'm not sure that this solves
They're not solving for the problem.
that issue. So
What's the right timing if this board and the RDC board wanted to send a letter or sign off on a letter saying we disagree with?
I think we've
that?
gotta wait to see if they have any updates or changes to it. I think we gotta get through a meeting or so, but that's when we would do the same thing we've done before, is get elected officials and get stakeholders and whoever involved. To figure out the right solution. Like out at Elko and Kaiser, it probably comes down to if those two companies agree and are okay with it, we could probably be okay with it.
I mean, my biggest concern is Bell Road. I think that's a mess at Bell Road, but there's gotta be a better solution than a J turn.
And so the J turn takes the least amount of real estate to make a different alternative intersection. So when you start doing like we did at Epworth, and you have to get extra lanes for displaced left, there's a whole bunch of different solutions. It's a little tight over there. You start getting into people's parking lots and property, and
I just think the J turn will be, I just don't.
I don't disagree.
But it's also.
I mean, that intersection is gonna get busier, not less busy. I mean, there's a lot of stuff
Yes.
over that direction.
I hate.
On
that.
both sides. Right.
I turn right a lot now anyway.
Yeah, I turn it all the time, and so I get home. This is not in relation to that, but this is also what I feel is, I don't love it enough, but, what they painted around the Epworth. Why did they not paint the side ones, which is to me the ones that would be the most.
So does everyone know what Courtney's talking about, the red medians?
Like
so-
the middle of the road, pretty much everybody, that didn't change. Everyone knows the middle of the road. Why did they not paint the ones that changed? Where the left.
So in between the slip lane and the next lane over, it's not paved.
Right.
So I will ask that question and get you an answer.
I just saw someone driving.
Okay.
Really?
Because I
I
was
saw,
like, when
I
they-
saw that the other day too.
Okay.
The first
Cause
one.
when they painted it, I thought they were painting those Because again, I feel like most people, when you're driving, you know the correct side to drive on.
Most of
And
the
so
time.
when you, yeah, so they wouldn't need to paint the middle of the road, cause you don't have that anywhere else on the Lloyd. But they didn't paint what I thought was necessary to paint, which is where you're going into the delayed left. Where
Okay, I will ask that question tomorrow and get you an answer.
What
We kind of got that paint because they were doing it at Stockwell and the new intersections. So they decided like new intersections should get it. And then they were like, hey, Warrick County, you're gonna get some red paint too. And so I will ask that question. I think that's a great point.
The backwards one I saw was in a displaced left turn. They were going backwards on the displaced left turn. Is that what you saw?
No, they weren't backwards, they just went up on the,
The little median there, the soft.
They realized and stopped and moved over.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I actually saw somebody going the wrong way. They were in a 2-lane displaced left turn going the other way.
I have seen
And
that.
missed the slip lane. That's
Right.
the only time I've seen that.
okay,
But
that's,
that was recent, that was within the last one. That's an oops. Not for sure,
okay, so I'll keep everyone posted on all of these issues. And when that September 1st meeting is, and we will go from there.
Steve,
Yeah,
I have a question. We're talking about traffic control. You know, we redid Epworth Road.
yep,
And then when you turn and go on Oak Grove Road to Port Evansville, Vandenberg County's road is real narrow there, and now people are using that road even more
yep.
because of the low, and do we have any connection, they get that on their
To make
Vandenberg
to
County?
make that section, we
Yeah.
don't have any authority, but we certainly can have that conversation. They really made the road fairly nice by the promenade, but that project didn't. They have a TIF over there, they use some TIF dollars, but as it goes over the bridge, but it's still in Vanderbilt County, that's where that road gets real tight.
Yes,
So, I mean, we can certainly bring it up. We can start with the MPO because the MPO works through all of the counties here. And so that'd be the place to start.
and we widened our part, and
Our-
Randy
In
Blacktop,
Warrick County, yeah,
not to the line,
Yep. It's wider.
and that's just, it really needs to be done.
And the county has been looking, speaking of Oak Grove, the county's been looking at the geometry of a roundabout at Oak Grove and Libbert because that traffic
Yeah.
backs up like crazy.
Right about now.
And so that's being studied.
Also, when you meet with the highway people, tell them that they need better signage at the roundabout where 61 turns on New Harmony Road.
Yeah,
Coming into Boonville,
yep.
it's not at all clear. I'm surprised they're not.
So that's the middle roundabout on the bypass, right? Or are you talking about the one? at
I'm talking about 61 going to Linville.
Yep,
Out of Boonville,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's,
Or the east.
North,
Yep.
north of Boonville,
Yep.
going towards Linville.
you want better signage for which road you're
To
getting
mark
onto?
61 better, because
Okay.
if you're coming from the north, really, you can't tell that there's a turnoff to go right there on 61. So a lot of people are going on into Boonville on that other, and big trucks aren't supposed to do that.
Okay, I will look into that.
There's better signage on the roundabout on North 61, just north of Boonville.
Okay. Okay, I have no problem calling them with all of these things, because we got a few things that people. Town of Newburgh wants better signage. So that trucks use 66, which is the truck route.
Yeah.
And people now with the bridge coming and more traffic and more trucks. If you get a semi truck off of the road to come into Newburgh at Covert, because a lot of people didn't cut through town and then, get onto that 66 out going towards Alcoa off of French Lick. But the signs that say no trucks are once you're already off on the ramp.
I think, is that
And by that time
we're
it-
talking about is the no trucks, because I feel like you can see that you can turn right really easily, but you can't see that the trucks are supposed to go that way.
Yeah.
The trucks will tend to start the curve around before they realize that they are not supposed to go into Boonville.
Like highlighting the designated truck.
Yeah,
route.
like this is the truck route to get on into Boonville instead of
Yeah.
that.
I'm out that way, so I'll take a look at it, and I always like to have pictures to show when we're having a conversation with.
I've had numerous
You'll
people tell me
see
it's
trucks get
confusing.
stuck a lot trying to figure out,
Maybe-
they've already made that curve and then they're like, I'm not supposed to go, and they go anyway and then they.
Maybe one sign before you get there that says all corrects must turn right or something like that.
Something,
First right.
that is something that lets them know that that is the designated truck route to get into.
I'll get out there and,
There's a sign that says no trucks.
Yeah, but it's
But it's
usually
on-
after they
yeah,
get
after
around
you
that
check,
curve,
yeah.
yeah, after they get around.
After you pass the turn off to the right, yeah.
okay,
Steve, on these roundabouts, the one on, you know, that they put on Anderson there is great. I mean, that, the angle is bad and it's very narrow for big trucks. I wish I'd have been designed a little bit different, but they didn't ask me, but think about getting a big truck through there. And we gotta get a big trucks back in there. I know we try to put big trucks around towns, but they gotta get in there, but
and so.
what constitutes getting them? Because the one you just mentioned, the Libbert, needs to be there. So how do we go about getting one there?
They're in the studying the, let's just say geometry for, there's probably a better term for it, but they need to make sure that whatever they need to put in for the capacity of traffic, that the geometry works. Like you're talking about this one at Oak Grove and Anderson, you can see the approach angles are a little different because we've got a slope and a house and we have a cemetery over here. And so they have to change the geometry, which changes the approach. So I think it's basically, you know, I don't know if that's phase one of the study or phase two, but they're in the process of studying.
At Libbert?
Yeah, just if it's possible to squeeze.
But who funds that? Does that come from the state or is that in the county?
It would be probably a mixed project, bless you, of the, you know, that'd be a Bobby Howard question. We can fund these things all different ways, like the redevelopment commission has funded the wellness trail, built that road out of TIF. Sometimes it's county money, other times we go through the MPO when they're letting projects. The thing is, when they let projects, like they just did a call for projects, the current call that just went out is for projects in 2032. And so the way that road projects go, if you wait, and it's good because there's 80-20 matches and stuff, but I mean, it doesn't happen fast. And some of that's, they gotta do studies and environmental and all of those things, but they are, you know, Bobby has his stuff planned 4 to 5 years out. From bridge deck replacements and all of those things.
That Libbert intersection just got bad because of the Lloyd mess up. People going Oak Grove rather than going to Lowe.
Yeah.
They do that all the time now.
Yep. Okay, next up, just real quick, entry level housing. And so a couple of conversations have come up in the last month or two, where people are talking about, let's just say, starter homes. And the fact that some people call a starter home, a lot of people disagree that that's a starter home. So whether, and I've heard this from the school corporation, other things, if you have a brand new teacher coming into work, you know, it's hard for them to find housing in Warrick County. You know, there are smaller homes, but the first number might be a 3 or a 4 for that. And so I just want to bring up to this group, and when we had our housing study, a lot of our towns in Warrick County are limited by their town limits, but they want more population. They want, they want population that's bigger community and it helps with tax revenue and all kinds of things. And there's a lot of times there's outlots and little lots all throughout town. I talked to a housing developer that's been very successful in Southern Indiana, very successful in what we call entry level housing in both single family homes and apartments. And to deliver housing for what maybe if we all wrote down what we think like a starter home should cost, small house, garage, 1,200 to 1,400 square feet. A lot of people would say it'd be nice to have that number start with a 2. And the only success, they've had success delivering those, and I mean in our region, the only way they've had success is through grant programs or community support or incentives, because they can do that. And we went through a whole selection of their stuff, and it's nice, it's basic, but it's nice. What works for them is if they get the land donated and that there's utilities at least at the property line. Like they can't pay to run miles of sewer and all of those things. And those two things normally allow them to deliver housing. And they've worked in towns in southern Indiana of 600 people and 1,200 people and stuff like that. So I'm just putting it out. You know, we talk about things that we're working on out here or along Epworth. It is definitely a need. You have a lot of communities like Warrick County and communities around Indianapolis, that it is one of the bigger challenges is you need a place for people to start out. So just think about that. It was a very informative conversation for me. And I'm going to connect them with some of our towns and communities that have been asking about projects. But it really came down to just costs. It's a little different than what Paul was explaining earlier, but they can still build those small homes, but the price per square foot due to land costs in Warrick County, due to costs that have gone up in building materials, due to all of those things, it's really hard and almost impossible for them to deliver when people say, here's where we need you to be, price wise.
Did they give you any like estimates on price per square foot without any incentives?
So I can get all of that. He rattled a bunch of that off, Jared, and I don't want to misquote because I don't have my notes on that. But yeah, he went through basically the difference, and every project is a little different because
Sure.
they showed apartment buildings versus a 20-unit small subdivision is different than when they're just mobilizing for one or two infill homes. So each project has a little bit different number there, but he had the numbers dialed in. Like I said, they've been very successful and we're gonna continue that conversation. But
Is that one developer that builds all the homes?
this
or
was
is that
one
multiple?
developer that, they have a whole level of subs and contractors, but they've done stuff from Indy all the way south, including a lot in our region. Only a couple of things they've done in very small, they've done in Warrick County. But it opened my eyes, just like we look at the big projects that have gaps and need support. It's on the other end of the spectrum. And if we want to deliver and have opportunities for people in a certain price range, we may need to think about finding, providing the land or providing these small things, picking the right places where utilities are already close by and dealing with the land and trying to help out if we want to have more of those. And we hear it from employers that some of their younger kids out of college, people they're trying to attract, they can't afford a brand new home right outside of Freedom Park here, no matter which neighborhood you pick.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
Does Warrick County have minimum lot sizes?
They do.
in subdivision? Any thought about reducing that and going with smaller homes?
They do, they have minimum lot sizes. Now, if you do a PUD, you can adjust those. So there are ways to do that you get under those minimum lot sizes. But if you were just gonna develop, just like Jerry, what is it like that you can be on septic? Is it a 2.5 acre lot?
Warrick County.
Like in Warrick County, you gotta have a big lot. Like if there's no sewer.
And
on
they
it,
have changed that, and for a long time it was that, but
They've tweaked it. They've tweaked it a little bit.
we're about the only county in the state that had to have 2.5 acres.
Right. So
Other counties beside us don't have to have.
as you got more,
Whatever they want.
as you got
Yeah.
more rural, the reason we didn't have a lot of housing is because you needed a big ranch piece of property almost that you had to take care of to put your house on. No matter how big or small your house was, you needed a big lot. So it is a good point that there are, for the most part, a lot of people say that Warrick County is easy to work with from like getting your projects through. I hear that from multiple people, developers, designers, etc. But zoning does affect what we can do. And so there are zoning rules that are restrictive to deliver certain kinds of outcomes.
The property is so expensive if you get so much money in the property. You know, and then by the time you get to utilities, everything, off-site utilities, you just can't get any cheap.
Well, and any
Lots.
property that's near utilities, that price is way up.
Yeah.
You know, you can find property way out in the country that you can get at farm prices basically, but you still need those big lots and you need to be on septic.
That's even going higher than you would realize a lot of the times anymore.
And so it kind of leads into the next thing I have here, guys. I met with folks up in Tennyson, and Tennyson's our smallest town here in Warrick County. Well, Victoria Woods may be our smallest town, but population wise, Tennyson is close, and I just want to bring them up as well because the conversation was really about challenges and opportunities that Tennyson has. And as a really small rural town, they certainly have some challenges. They have, I would say their problems are more pronounced than if you went into like Elberfeld or Linville. Linville has some empty buildings on Main Street. Elberfeld has some empty buildings and some lots available. Tennyson has those issues as well. Some of the things that they want from a quality of place standpoint are really small relative to the kinds of projects. You know, they want to complete the sidewalk from the school to the park. And they've got about 60% of it is done. And 20% of it is sidewalks there, but you'd rather walk in the grass because it's all chopped up and, you know, little things like that they think are starting points. So for county council, for the commissioners, for economic development, I just want to bring it up that I just started having that conversation, and I'll bring some more. They've got trees that need to get cut down in the park because there's some unsafe things in their park, but their budgets are so small that it becomes an obstacle. And so I'd like to find a way to support some projects out that way. Same thing as we've supported the Tecumseh Trail. We're working on this pocket park in Elberfeld. We're working on baseball, softball in Linville. I think we should have the attitude that everybody in Warrick County deserves quality of place. You know, Elberfeld doesn't need Friedman Park. So you could scale things, but a small park in town that kids can take their school pictures at, and they can have gatherings and little events makes a lot of sense. And so Tennyson, let's put them in that bucket too. I hadn't been out there in a long time, which that's on me, but
is there some sort of proposal on the table?
what we are trying to do, Jared, is we're trying to get costs on those things. So they came up with a connection between the school and the library, that sidewalk project that we talked about. They have a couple of lots going back to housing, that if they could find a developer to put a couple of 2 or 3 unit, like little townhouses on, that they felt made sense. And then we talked about some things they needed in their park before we can bring it to the board or to the county or the council. I always like to I don't want them guessing like, you know, or Googling what a sidewalk costs. We need somebody to actually go out and look at the obstacles and if utilities need to get moved. And so I've been talking on the sidewalk thing with Morley. We're looking at the trees at the park. So before I come for a proposal, we just want to get the dollars and cents of it so we know what it's gonna cost. So that's in the works.
They tell you what their annual budget ends up being.
I mean, we have it, Herb. It's
very.
Tiny, right?
Yeah. It's very tiny.
Tens of thousands, maybe.
It's very small.
They used to have a restaurant there, it was really nice.
Yep.
I don't think there's a restaurant or gas station.
Outside of there, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's still good, but it's not in town.
Yeah.
Nothing, everything that's in town is gone. So
There is a restaurant up there?
it's the pizzeria,
Oh,
but it's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's outside of town.
and I think it's just to go now also. I don't think
I think that's true, too.
they have any
Yeah.
dine-in.
It's still good though.
It is still good. It
They
is
still
still good.
plan on keeping the school open as far as you know.
You know, they have the last several years, so, and I think I heard their kindergarten class was the largest class they've had in
Oh,
like,
wow.
like
The
3 or
families are
4
pushing. I think a
Like-
lot of them
like
realize it.
3 or 4 years. I think their kindergarten class has been bigger. So,
They're doing what they can to keep that.
and that school building's really nice.
It is
It's a
nice.
nice facility. Okay, Shifting gears really quick, we talked last time about when we went out and visited Alcoa and some other businesses. Since last month's meeting, the BRD group, we went to Phoenix Specialty Films and also out to Prime Foods. I always appreciate a tour. I'm like eyes wide open, like how do we make these hard boiled eggs? What's going on over here? I want to feel the heat at Alcoa and whatever. But since the last time I was in Prime Foods, they have put in a lot of investment inside that facility. They have put in millions of dollars of technology and robotics and all kinds of stuff. It was extremely impressive. I've been in there several times. And then another piece with Prime Foods is Prime Foods bought cold storage in that industrial park. So it used to be cold storage, then it was, what was the last name of it, Jerry? Remember? They took the sign off the building, so I can't even remember. Lineage, maybe?
Yeah,
Something along those lines. So that just closed about 6 weeks ago. So what that does is they had refrigeration inside of their main production facility. It allows them to move that out into cold storage. They were still using and renting space in cold storage. Allows them to move that out and add additional lines and additional opportunities within their manufacturing footprint. And so that had just closed the day that we were there, which is really good. You should see a brand new name going on that building soon. When they do that, they'll have kind of a ribbon cutting and an announcement. And then we'll do a ribbon cutting when the new headquarters building opens out at Phoenix. They are also growing leaps and bounds. They have distribution units and warehouses in Florida and Texas now. It'll be the third building out in North Warrick. They are getting into shipping and logistics as well for other companies in their industry because they've had so much success doing that. They continue, they work locally with like AmeriQual and Prime Foods. They do a lot of the packaging for Jay Kramer and Prime Foods out there. And they continue to grow and hire and do some cool things. They're gonna have, as part of their new building, they're gonna have like a technology hub in there and a technology training center for people in the industry. And once they should be about 6 to 8 weeks where they kind of take the keys for that building. We'll do a day where everyone, if you want to get out there and take a look.
that's Phoenix.
Yep.
You're talking about, is that Elberfeld?
Yeah, it's off Noble's Chat. It's on the far side of the industrial park.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And so next week, we're going to Zoller injection molding, and that used to be Lincoln Industries. So if you're driving into Boonville on the south side, you'd see Lincoln Industries. They've renamed and rebranded there. And I've been on that tour as well. They have some unique things that they do as well from their core business. But they've got some new folks over there, and we're going next week and seeing what they're up to, and I'll provide an update after we do that. Any questions on that? Okay. All right, some old business. This was in your update email, so I won't spend a lot of time. We had applied for Lilly grants for both a public art master plan and then for a feasibility study on a performing arts center. And tourism took the lead on the public art piece, and the Warrick County School Corporation took the lead on a performing arts center. We didn't think we were awarded, and then we showed up as a capacity building grant. And so Abby, Dr. Redmond, and I, we got on a call with the state and Okra and the Indian Arts Association, and they do have funding for these capacity building grants. And so it looks like our requests are going to be funded. But we were the first 2 of these 15 projects that they spoke with. So they said, give us a couple more weeks. We're going to talk to all of these projects to see. We were the only ones that actually asked for planning money. The rest of these projects kind of said, hey, I've got a brick and mortar project. And they kind of want to tell those projects, like, you may need some more planning. And are you interested in that? So they were going to have those conversations. I think beginning of September, we should look for them to reach back out, and then we'll know about that funding. And we will move forward. We've talked to several consultants that do that kind of feasibility, and we've talked to public art master plan folks. So we do have some options and some quotes to move forward with those if we get that funding. So that's good news.
You know where that picture is from, which you have
I-
there for the performing arts?
I do not, it was from, I do know, it's from Google. Okay, next up, next 10 days or stuff, tell all your friends, get ready. We should be having our next Warrick Bucks fall promotion, and then we'll do a big holiday blowout in 2026. Those dollars were approved by county council. The county has some new procedures for anything that costs over $5,000, so it goes through the commissioners meeting now. So it takes a little more time to get some of these things through, but that should be moving, and we'll send you guys a heads up if that goes. Okay, we talked about in our financials, the Scales Lake Gatehouse. So that project, that Scales Lake Gatehouse was built like pre-Ronald Reagan times, and has outkicked its coverage.
It's not that long ago, my friend.
Well, for a public facility that's used every day, it has. And
If
so
you just said FDR, I would have been more correct.
it could have been, we couldn't find the cornerstone, Paul, to figure out. We know that the cabins out there went in the 80s, and the gatehouse was there well before that.
Yeah.
So, Parks Department opened bids in July. We are hoping construction to start in November, and then hope to be complete in May of 27. 5 bids were received, which is good, that we get a lot of people bidding on stuff. The winning bid was a little shy of $900,000. You can see there 888, and the highest bid was 1.1. So the bids came in that range. It is a much larger building. Right now, the current building has no public amenities. There's not only like an outdoor seating vending area. I didn't show the picture, but as you walk into the gatehouse, there's now a camp store, which is one of the #1 most requested things for a campground. And Scales Lake has had that request for 40 years. And they just had an outdoor vending machine and a wood pile. And so being able, those little things that you don't have to run into town or find a Walmart for when you're camping. They'll also do some Scales Lake, maybe merchandise and some stuff like that. There's an outdoor access to a public bathroom, which there isn't in the front of the park. And if you use Scales Lake on any day of the week, you will see that a lot of mountain bikers come in through the front of the park at the front of the park, and some of their events use the front of the park. And the closest bathrooms are, you have to go towards the back of the park and into the camping areas. So it also provides the park department room to grow. Basically, it was everyone working out of 1.5 rooms. And now there's some office space, there's a conference space to have team meetings or interviews or whatever you need to do. So it's much needed. You can kind of see where the budget breaks down. And the way that we are funding it is there were dollars left from the Parks bond that we took out when we built the Freeman Park Event Center. We wrote that bond specifically in the rules so that we could use any leftover dollars for any capital projects at Warrick County Park facilities. We were, at the time, we were like $300,000 under budget on this building. That money built up over the last several years to just shy of $500,000. They've used it for a couple of things. We're gonna use 300 from the Parks Bond. We're going to go to county council in a week and a half here with the parks and ask for another 100,000 from Parks Department from their fund. And then we're going to take and ask for the remainder that you see there out of edit funding. So it's just another collaborative project where we can use some edit dollars that we have to make a good change here in Warrick County. So that is that. And I will say Eigner Construction won that bid. There were 5 local companies that all bid on that project, and they came in under, and the Parks Department is looking forward and knows that they will get a fantastic product. And so good news out at Scales Lake. Any questions on that? Okay. Additional items, really don't have any. There's a bunch of local events. I just threw that Crossroads Church up there today when we found out there is a mountain bike race happening. If you know any mountain bikers, or you want to come out and cheer out at Scales Lake, Party in Paradise, September 26th. It is shocking that it's already the 9th year for that event, but it is, and it raises a ton of money for our parks. So those are a couple things going on in the community. Is any other board business?
See,
Yep.
just real brief on Do you know anything about the the centers that?
So
talking about?
that's a
And are we
long
far against it? I mean. what's your feeling?
conversation. I would say that right now, the best update I can tell you, Jerry, is that if you've been paying attention, the county,
Yeah,
which it's really, the decision's gonna come to the commissioners in area planning. And so they put a 180-day pause on any of that to try to get an ordinance of some kind in place. And that ordinance, just like we have a solar ordinance and ordinances on other things, that ordinance will dictate where the county lands on those projects. So I guess what I would say is, I think that happened 2 weeks ago, Monday. And so I think in another month or two, we should have a better feel for where the county's going, and we can have certainly that conversation in here.
I know the commissioners talked to a company and then they signed a letter and, you know, we couldn't talk to other people.
They did not, the commissioners are not signing an NDA on any project that comes before them. So I'm not sure if that's what you're referencing.
It was in the paper as well, I know.
Okay.
They said that they had talked to a company earlier. And then there was a company that was gonna buy some property in the Linville area from the coal mines.
Yes, there's a lot of,
That's been going around and
there's a lot of
we just
interest.
need to be educated. I believe the people in the county need to be educated on the pros and the cons of the centers.
I do not disagree. And I think that's coming. I think the commissioners also mentioned they're gonna try to get a forward-facing public webpage out there. I think for providing information and some of that education, that you're talking about. But when I know more, I will certainly tell you, but I think they're at the very front end because they just put that in place
Yeah.
of figuring out the direction to go.
Well, they keep saying there's 4 centers in Evansville area. And I don't know of any, but do you know if?
So
we could
I think
see?
it depends how you classify things, so I don't know exactly, but I know that there was. You know, I don't know who had it, I don't know if it was an internet company, but these are, what they're talking about, Jerry, are very small. Facilities that were used for maybe one purpose or one company versus the kind of stuff that you're seeing go up around the state or around the country right now. It's kind of, they still called it that. They called it that 15 years ago.
Okay.
That it was a data center because it was a whole bunch of servers in a computer room. But I think, don't quote me, but I think when you say that there's 2 or 4 of these things, it's not the kind of facilities that you're reading about in the news now.
These things that I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay, I was just gonna say, like, at the area planning meeting, I attended for a portion of it, and there were people that came and said, like, the hospitals that were data centers, like, those
This
are
is
big
a folder.
server units.
Yes.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, no, right.
there's a lot of uneducation out
And-
there, and I
Yeah.
think there needs to be a lot of education about them
Yeah.
that is presented, because I think a lot of people don't understand what the data centers that are coming, or
Or
that.
that they want to bring,
Yeah,
that they're
what they
coming,
wanna
that they
bring.
want to bring.
Yes, Are
If
coming.
you've seen one,
yes,
the new one,
yeah,
it's like a car factory.
Yeah.
I mean, they're enormous. Yeah, so no, we don't have anything like that.
no,
Yeah, I did try to figure out what I could
so I
see.
think all of the.
So I think the ones you're talking about are these ones that have been here for years and they have transferred ownership. And I don't even know who had them. I do think an internet company had one for a while here. But again, nothing like that. So I guess I would just say, stay tuned, because I think that as that website gets developed and more information comes out, I think some of those answers will be apparent.
I think
What I've read about it, there's a lot of more pros than cons about it. And it's gonna happen. I mean, it's gonna happen in this country. It's a revolution. It's happening. It's AI stuff.
I think everyone has to have their own. I don't think you can state here from a county side, you can have your own personal opinion. I personally think a lot of people I'll state my personal opinion. I think that can be very, very beneficial if we put it in a correct way. Like, we have to put very specific regulations of, like, you have to. There's. Correct verbiage that we have to, what you have, stipulations that you have to do if a data center comes here. But it can extremely benefit our county,
Yes.
100% in every way. But there are, yes, some concerns that you have to make sure you put those stipulations in, and you can put those in. Just don't say absolutely no, no data center whatsoever. You just have to make sure and get that balance. And I think that's what the commissioners and area planning, they're trying to research it and figure that out. So you can have that conversation and it doesn't
So
have to be.
that transparent conversation.
Yes.
That's where people are very.
That,
Hot
that's where I think
topics.
the no NDAs and the
Yes.
fact that
Yeah,
the commissioners are gonna try to put
I
out
mean, the conversation is gonna happen.
a website
And that's okay.
that has all of that information and any information about any folks that are looking in our community.
Yeah.
I think that will help with those points.
Yeah.
They also talked about forming a fact-finding committee. You know, where they bring in professionals and scientists and also bring in people who have neighborhood concerns all together. To actually research the pluses and minuses, go visit these places that where they're at, fact finding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's pros and cons and you have to put everything in place for that. And I think that's what they're doing right now and figuring out.
It's a battle of years too. We went to Cheyenne, Wyoming and no data centers, no data, it was all over the place. So
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that I'm for it by any means, but I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm actually a Northern Warrick County person, so I'm not 100% on board on any of this shit. I need more info,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
A lot more info.
I agree. So stay tuned. And when that stuff's available, I will certainly point our board to that. And for whatever part of the conversation we want to play.
It looks like our elected officials are going about it in the right way.
I think
Good
that,
point, you know.
yes, they wanted this pause, and I think area planning and the commissioners are getting together to figure out the best path forward.
That's right.
And how to put that information out there. Okay,
All right, I need a
there's
motion.
nothing else, pause.
I'll make a motion that we.
There's a second, all in favor?
All right,
Sure.
okay, we are adjourned.
Everybody got the minutes? Do you have any questions or motion to approve?
Motion.
Do I have a second? I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
And then online, Brad, go for it.
Aye.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brandon,
Yes.
Okay,
Opposed to sign? Okay, minutes passed. Then financials, Steve?
okay, financials were handed out in your packet. And we can scroll through any questions that you have. No changes to these, no changes in our highlighting or anything that you guys have seen. And we can scroll through those things and answer any questions from the board.
Motion to approve.
Do you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Brad,
Aye.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brandon,
Aye.
same sign. All right, the financials pass.
Okay, we'll move on to claims. You can see the claims on the screen. They were handed out in the packet. Our total is 48,694.40 that you guys are approving today. I'm happy to answer any questions.
There's no questions. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve, okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
And a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Online,
Brad,
Aye.
Jenna,
Yes.
Brandon,
Aye.
the same thing. All right, the approval of that passes.
Okay, we have couple of action items, and because Brad has a hard stop here in about 15 minutes, I'm gonna jump ahead because our first couple ones are not really board votes or approvals. They're just some pressing items. So let's move to the first one is we just put this together. We just got this information from Baker Tilly. Was written up, and that's a resolution 2026-6. And what this is, guys, we do this every year. This is the State Road 61 TIF. When we formed that TIF, we knew that there would be some incremental taxes that weren't due to any new investment being made. It was gonna be made because of some existing roll-offs that were taking place at Alcoa. And so, we had some abatements in place. As those rolled off from old investments, you know, they used an abatement, you might pay 50% of your taxes 1 year, 40%, 30. So they were paying more taxes on an older investment. And this board made the decision that we only wanted to collect funds from anything new from the time we set that TIF. We didn't want to collect taxes for something that happened before the TIF district. And so Baker Tilly does this analysis every year. And so what we are basically saying in this is we are passing through, in this case, $617,059 of personal property value from the State Road 61 TIF. And so,
Passing through assessed value, not taxes. it's
Right.
Assessed value.
correct, sorry, and it says that right there, assessed value. So this is for stuff that rolled off projects that were in place before we created the 61 TIF. And so in order to do that, once you guys approve that, then I send that to the assessor so that they can make sure that that change is put in. So what we'll be looking for is Courtney's signature. Do we have everybody on there?
Yeah,
We have everybody on there.
Okay, so we have everybody on there, so I may need to chase some people down that are online,
For it.
which I can do. And so that's what we're looking for, Courtney.
So I need a motion to approve resolution number 2026-6.
Yeah,
And this is normal, customary?
yes,
Happens all the
Yearly.
time?
We've
yes.
done this 3 or 4 times now.
We've done it every year since we had the 61 TIF in place.
And I think it's Alcoa abatements, isn't it?
It is.
There's some Alcoa abatements that were rolling off. And if we didn't do this, we would actually be capturing taxes on investments made before we created the TIF.
Okay.
And that we didn't want to do and shouldn't be doing. That's not the way TIF's set up to begin with.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion. There was a
I'll
second.
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Online?
Brad,
Aye.
Jenna,
Yes.
and Brent.
Opposed? All right, and that motion passes.
Okay, so. The next one that we wanna do is. And Herb, let me know how we wanted to do this, but we had we're gonna have a whole sports project update here in a little bit, but one of the things we had in our agreement with. Epworth Development LLC was that they were gonna have a complete set of plans ready August 1st. And so that was just, by the time we signed that agreement, and by the time that design got going. That was probably an unrealistic expectation to have, to have complete plans. So we didn't want to say that we wanted to waive that, we just extended that a month. That would be September 1st. I think September 1st, we're gonna go over the current plans and the layout and all the things, but to have full level construction. Plans again by September 1st is unrealistic for a project where we'll show that we made some improvements to the design over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so. We wanna do just a motion.
Just to ratify, so Steve has already signed off on a 30-day extension to September 1.
Correct.
We might as well go ahead and handle the next one because I know it's coming, so we might as well. Assuming the board's okay with it, move the deadline back to October 1. Cause they're still making tweaks sort of to the basic design and build out of the sports facility, so he's got a ways to go to get final construction documents on the 100,000 square foot building, so. If you guys are okay with it, in addition to ratifying Steve's signature.
And I will say these extensions should not affect the construction timing, meaning they still plan to get. The foundations in and the pad poured in October. And so that shouldn't affect the fact that they don't have the pure mechanical and electric level plans. Of where every outlet is and everything else as they work through all of those layers.
Yeah, this is the only deadline we're bumping. We're not bumping any of the other construction completion deadlines. So it's just
Correct.
Design front end.
So I heard a couple different dates. So what is the date?
So we bumped to September to kind of say, hey, we don't wanna we'll give you 30 more days. Knowing probably that wasn't going to be realistic, so we will probably wind up bumping again to October 1st. So we have not done that.
It's ratifying Steve's prior action as to extending the deadline to September 1. And then having this board agree now that is acceptable to Steve. For Steve to go ahead and move it to October 1 if necessary.
We won't do that until September passes.
All other terms and conditions.
Stay the same.
But it just keeps us from having to do it again, cause we're giving, I'm gonna go ahead and
Right.
give you permission to do that if necessary.
Do I have a motion?
I can make that motion.
I'll second that.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Online?
All right, Brad,
Aye.
Jenna,
Aye.
Brandon.
Sound like
Jenna, you're on mute if you're trying to talk.
Sorry, I said yes.
Okay. Okay, let's talk about a couple of other things, and these are not ones that we are gonna act on today. But, today was the deadline to get any bids. Do you remember we had to publish in the paper twice? If we are going to use land as an incentive, we have to publish that in the paper, and we gave people the opportunity to purchase these acres and build a sports complex. Those publications went in twice, we have them copied and recorded that those went in. Today was the deadline to receive any bids. They were able to pick up information about the project at our office during that window. Nobody came to pick anything up, and we did not receive any bids. So that's just me giving you guys an update that those weren't, no bids. So,
The redevelopment commission has very specific statutory processes they have to follow to sell land. One of it's get to appraisals, we check that box. One of it is to develop an offering sheet and put out public notice in the paper 2 times and accept bids. And we have the ability to reject all bids, but you gotta go through that process. So now we check this box. The statute then says, since we received no bids, we can go back to Epworth Development, negotiate with them, but we have to wait 30 days. So we'll wait 30 days, then we can sell the 21.5 acres for the sports facility to Epworth Development, have them move forward with construction.
Is there an actual time deadline? Cause people do things at the last minute all the time. So is it like noon
it's already
today?
passed.
It was 2:40, they were supposed to bring it in between 2:45 PM and 3 PM.
I gotcha, okay.
Yeah,
For action by this board at or around 4 o'clock. Okay.
so with that, we were gonna move, I had on here authorization of land closing documents. However, because we have to wait 30 days. Regardless. Bossy title, and we're working on those land closing documents, so we don't have them. That's why it was gonna be an authorization of them. 30 days puts us like at the 20th of next month. Our next meeting is before that. So we should have those documents ready for the board to look at. We'll just take care of that next month. So I'm just pushing that off. The next thing that I just wanna let you know that besides the land closing documents, we are also working on pulling the bond that we are taking out of the TIF to fund the incentive for the sports complex. And so we've been working with bond counsel, which we use Scott Peck and Baker Tilly. And we've been going through, and I just wanted to put up here, there's several actions that need to happen. And we can go through this and we can see that like September 17th, with the regular meeting of the RDC, is when we would pledge TIF revenues for payment of the bonds. Before that, you can see that we have to do some notice of public hearings. We have to put a publication in the paper for the EDC, which is a whole different board than this. That is myself, Steve Smith, and Eric Pryor. That's the 3-person EDC board. It will go to the September meeting where the county council needs to introduce an ordinance that we've been putting together. We have a draft of, which they will get tomorrow for their September packet. They introduce 1 month the ordinance authorizing the bonds, and then if you fast forward to October 6th, in their next meeting, they actually adopt the ordinance authorizing those bonds. So we did this several months ago, when we went through phase 1 of the district bonds. This is the same thing, so I just wanted to show the board the kind of steps. This board doesn't have a ton of steps, but we will take some action at our September 17th meeting. And then the EDC and the county council have some steps as well. Just Greg, as being on county council, remember, these are TIF bonds. So these are not backed by county property taxes or income taxes. They're fully self-contained. They do not affect the county's bonding capacity. And are all wrapped up within and paid for by the TIF. And you'll see that all in your packet. Greg, we kind of talked about that when in my office this week as well. So any questions on that? We're not taking, like I said, we're not taking any action. We'll push the land closing documents to when we have them.
This is for the $9.5 million incentive that's part of our incentive package.
Correct.
This is the part that gets paid to Epworth Development over time. When we close on the bonds, we give them 3 million, and then it's 650,000 a month for 10 months to get to the 9.5 million. The bond issue will be a little bit higher than 9.5 million to cover cost of issuance, so bond counsel's fees, Baker Tilly, who's our financial advisor, their fees, things like that will be paid out of bond sources.
Also. Okay, let's stick on the sports complex. So, if you guys wanna get in the weeds on it, I've got a really big, you can even unroll that, we can talk about that later, but basically it's all the things I'm going to show you. So we have been making a lot of progress the last several weeks. And that is on the building size and the building amenities and the tenant space and all of those things. And so this is one version of the color palette. There will be a couple of choices, but remember, this is a pre-manufactured steel building that you basically put a really nice facade on, you wrap it around the corner a little bit, and it is really coming together. And so we can go through the whole things. Really what we've been working on, when you get to what this 100,000 square feet is, we've been working mostly, the courts are where the courts are, and we can show you the volleyball version and the basketball version. And I don't have it here, but there's a pickleball version and where you can put turf and all of those things, but basketball, volleyball being the main pieces, and you can see where those courts lay out. But the real improvements have been on kind of what I would say front of house, because the rest is a gymnasium. And you make sure that there's enough room for parents and coaches and scoreboards and bleachers and all of these things. But as we get into the front of house, from 4 weeks ago or the original design, we've had a group of folks, you know, kind of discussing impact and flexibility and tenant space and storage room and party room and team rooms and all the different bathrooms and the flow of people through this facility and the flexibility that that brings and the championship court and all of those pieces. I will just say, I'm not gonna get into all the details of where some of the pieces come in and where we can have outdoor patios and conference room space and how we're dealing with sound and how we're dealing with a grand entryway, but I will just say it's really come together. And to give the facility the most flexibility possible. And so we can send this stuff digitally as well. I will give you guys a couple of other updates that this board's been talking about. Epworth Development has a verbal commitment that is working on being papered by a major regional stakeholder for a 12-year naming rights. We would all know the name of that organization till they put it on paper and sign it. But that's coming soon. I actually talked to that organization just to confirm all of that information, and they've confirmed they've come to agreement on the term and the dollars and all of those things which are important to the pro forma. And it's gonna be a 12-year agreement. That company is also taking some of the tenant space, which then will line up kind of what other tenants make sense to line in there. So when you think of tenants, you can think of sports training and therapy and gyms and ice cream and sandwich shops and all kinds of other retail stuff. And this is flexible space, so if somebody wants 5,000 square feet or they want half of that, all of those things can be done, and it's all built so they can have their own separate entrances and their own branding on the front and all of those things. So that was one piece of the equation. The other piece is, as far as the project's financing, they have a proposal and term sheet to work with Indiana Members Bank on they were working with 2 banks in the area, and they are happy with that agreement. The biggest piece that's going through as part of their process between underwriting and everything else is they do an appraisal. And so that still takes a few weeks. So they expect that this loan would close, if everything kind of moves parallel paths, at the end of September. Which would kind of be right before our October days and our dates that we have. So that's good. So that is the update on that piece of the project. I'm trying to think if there
You
was,
asked about volleyball courts, didn't you, last time, because
Well-
Steve had raised that issue.
well, we had that old
And that-
version.
And that got solved,
I was
just
just,
so you
I
know.
was just curious.
It was just a number thing when you counted on that sheet,
Yeah.
Right.
what that is.
Don't get me wrong, I want this thing to happen. Last month, we had talked about there was a 30-day window to secure financing. And we signed that agreement July 17th
now
or
passed.
whenever, and that has passed,
Right.
and
That
now we're
wasn't
talking
our
about.
right, that was his right to back out if he didn't get financing in place
Okay,
in that
Right.
window.
but they already had term sheets, now we're talking about a new bank that's issued a term sheet. And they're not gonna approve it until they have an appraisal.
They had a
Now-
comfort letter before from the
Yeah.
first bank.
Now we're talking about end of September before an appraisal's complete, so.
Well, that's
That
what
was
they
for
think they're
closing,
getting
right? That was
closed.
closing. That
Yeah,
was closing, not the appraisal, so.
That's when
they're
they think they're
shooting to
gonna
be
be
able
able
to
to
close by the end of September on the financing. And it's
Okay.
a $8 million loan.
Mhm.
And that came from the bank, not from Epworth Development.
Mhm.
That timeline came directly from the bank.
Okay. I guess I guess
Well,
what
no.
I'm saying
Yeah,
is,
go
how confident do we feel in that happening?
The financing happening, very confident.
I feel very confident, but again, we don't have. We're gonna be transferring real estate and we're gonna be taking out a bond. So those are our two pieces. This should get done before those things go into effect. And so. If anything changed or the confidence level changed. My opinion is we're still within the window to. To be okay here. I mean, I would say the confidence level is high with what we know now about where they're at with this.
From a risk standpoint, it never seemed like, to me at least, it didn't seem that risky from a bank standpoint to loan. $8 million on a $26 million facility. When you've got 21.5 acres out there, they've already appraised for $4 million.
Yeah.
I mean, it just doesn't seem like for a risk profile, it's that risky. I think they struggle a little bit with appraisals because there's not very many of these around. So trying to find a decent comparable property is a little tricky.
Especially one that's, a lot of them that are around are all old, so it's really hard to.
I mean, there's one in Mishawaka and there's a couple others around Indianapolis.
Right.
That we'll look at, get some.
They're in different
numbers,
markets,
Things
but
like that, but.
There are comparable, 100,000.
I'm confident they're gonna get
Buildings.
comfortable in getting that, providing that loan at that level, cause you're talking about what, a third? Yeah, you're talking about a third, like loaning 33% of value or somewhere around there, so. I'm pretty confident they're gonna get comfortable and make the loan.
I would second that.
You mentioned turf, and a long time ago, there was talk about universities participating in the track and field. Is any of that's all gone?
So the track was a
That
second,
was huge,
a whole second gymnasium.
yeah.
Basically because of the track situation, and basically that feasibility went out the window when all the local universities wanted to rent the track, but didn't want to participate in
Money on the
supporting the
front.
track on the front end, because the track was one of the biggest pieces of that, whether you do a hydraulic one or a permanently banked one. The hydraulic one's the best because you can have other stuff when it goes flat, but it also didn't make sense because when we first got into this, Greg, we were gonna be the only track in like 400 miles or something, and put me on the 400, but one opened up in Louisville, one was being built in St. Louis, and then Indiana put one at the fairgrounds in Indianapolis. And so when we had originally heard that, I may get these backwards, but like UE had to go out to either Georgia or to Iowa for one of these for indoor track season, and USI had to go to like South Dakota. That was no longer the case in our region. There were gonna be multiple pieces. And so the feasibility on indoor track season, which is like 2 months long, just didn't pencil out. So I mean, that that piece,
The track made it more than 200,000 square feet, and that was the biggest part of it.
right. But yeah, that piece hasn't been a part of it for a long time. So I don't think I have any other slides there, but
I mean, they've really made some improvements to the facade of the building. Cause at the end of the day, it's a pre-engineered steel building, but they've really made some.
we've changed elevations
heights
and
and
depths and
elevations.
entrances and glass and
That looks nice.
some other pieces like that, that I think is important, but,
So starting in October, do they have an idea of when they would like completion?
so technically,
Those are in there.
What's our,
the,
End of November for substantial, November 27 and.
December, the end of the year by,
December.
I mean, I can't remember what I are.
yeah,
He needs to be able to get his foundations in. Once he gets his foundations in, Jim Morley was confident they could erect the steel and work on the outside of the building even during the winter time, so.
but their October dates are pretty set in stone to be able to accomplish those things. So like Patriots out there doing borings and all kinds of stuff, so they are moving forward 100% to hit those deadlines, but it's been a lot of moving pieces, all trying to come together
Yeah,
in different directions at the same time.
yeah.
Are we
and-
voting on anything else, Brandon just asked?
No, we are not voting on anything else.
Okay, guys, thanks. I needed to get out of here. I appreciate that.
Okay,
Brandon.
thanks, Brandon.
All right, see you next time.
There you
Okay, so we can come back to that if people want to get in the weeds on any of the amenities and all of that stuff. Certainly happy. Hmm?
18?
So it is 17 courts and it is 9 basketball courts. And you could squeeze a second volleyball court in the championship area. But the decision to make it kind of this special little stadium,
Yeah, good deal.
we're gonna go with one in each of those.
How many seats are they
Spaces.
talking about around the championship court?
So
That's specific.
you can dig in there.
Okay.
You can dig in there, sir. And again, what we're doing is kind of even like with the event center here. We're starting with numbers of where we would start for seating. You can get more people in the building, but just like when we bought all the tables and chairs here, we started with a certain number to see like, how many do we really need? And then they realized, hey, we better add some cocktail tables. And hey, we better add this. And if you guys have been in any of these facilities, you get parents that love to sit in the bleachers. And you get parents that bring their chairs into the facility. And so there's space for kind of all of those things. Okay.
The other thing that's going on with the sports facility now, and Steve can talk to this better than I can, but Edge is involved, so Edge is an operator of sports facilities all around the country. So they've gotten involved in a pretty detailed way in the last however long. month.
From an operation success,
Just to look at the building to make sure it looks like everything's in place and drive things that will drive revenue. and
how big
things
the
like that.
kitchen needs to be, how big your counter and space needs to be. The little details, I guess, which aren't really in the building plan, but stuff that's gonna make a difference to the finished product. I will move on quickly to Van Road and just let you guys know that we continue to work on this layout for all of the development that we've been talking about what Van Road looks like getting all the way through to Libert Road. And so it's really important. We did a wetland stream and a stream and wetland analysis. We've been looking at right of ways. We're trying to lay it out maybe where it's on adjoining property owners as equally as we possibly can. But we need to set where this road is going to be. We've had conversations with the county highway department for where they want the orientation to be with utilities that are in the ground. We've talked about where the sewer, we gotta avoid the sewer and where we wanna put the sewer. So we are getting closer because the goal will be, once we get this set in stone, not only to get it on the county's transportation plan, but also to start talking with these property owners about potentially providing the right of way. And access, because it does improve their property, it does give them access to their property, it allows development north and south of the road. And but to have those conversations, we kind of need it dialed in, so we know if we're taking 0.8 of an acre or 0.62 of an acre, or how that lays out and why it lays out. So we are making progress. But I think this is, as we want to develop this whole area, having more road frontage and being able to get people in and out of these major developments is important. So I guess I'll just stay tuned on that.
That's part of the dirt they're moving right now. I just went by there today and they're moving where the road is, at least on the Epworth development side of the property.
Well, and if you remember, they're building a big lake out there, and so road orientation is also important for how close they need to stop digging in that hole.
Right.
So that the road can go in. So let's talk about Project Duck and the Shell building. So the last update, that's not their logo. That's just, so that you know.
Did you come up with that or did Holly put that in?
I put that on there.
Okay.
The last update from this week is they basically have been going back and forth on a purchase agreement because they're gonna purchase the Shell building and then expand it. That back and forth between their attorneys is done, redlining, and both parties feel comfortable with where they're at. Evan Beck is in Italy, well, maybe today he's in Dublin, but then he's gonna be in Italy. And then when he gets back, they expect to sign that purchase agreement. There will be a due diligence period where they still have time to come in and do their inspections and all of that. But all of that is really good news as our goal. And I'll bring the cake in when that happens, and we'll have cake and ice cream. But that could be done, and that would put them after due diligence of closing in early October. So that's good news. Let's see, Epworth TIF.
As soon as the sale closes, our payment obligation stops, so.
Right. And we're owed money for the land back to us, which I think is $300 and some $1,000. Just to kind of give everybody a further update, so here's where we're talking about the big lake and where Van Road would kind of come through. So it's obviously important to know where the road is, so you know where to stop digging a giant hole. But the other thing that is moving forward, that is part of their commitment in phase one, which phase one is kind of everything to the east of the main boulevard here, is to get going and to start putting infrastructure in and this grand entrance, and then to start getting going, because there's a deliverable of the first 37 housing units. So this entire neighborhood is being put into a PUD because there are some different lot sizes, all that stuff we talked about. There are homes that are facing parks and green spaces, not facing a public road, which is uncommon in Warrick County. You're supposed to front a public road. So remember, all of these are kind of back alley fed attached garages to have more of an upfront on the curb appeal, front porch appeal, and built around green space and parks. So we met in a meeting with the county, which includes stormwater and highway department and first responders and area planning to go over this, because there are some unique pieces. And alleys are kind of unique in Warrick County. They're not completely unique. We have some developments like that, but in this format, they certainly are. So they're gonna be private alleys and not taken care of by the county. The county's gonna take care of the public roads. There's some commitment to taking care of the green space, so it's not the county highway department just bush mowing this stuff, because this will be landscaped in a certain way, in a certain field. So that's also good news, that this first development and those pieces are going to get moving, because they want to put the first, I think they said 8 foundations for the first 8 homes in by the end of the fall.
So this will be a true PUD where the developer has that retains the HOA rights and all that.
Correct.
Okay.
100%.
Cause there's really not many of those around here, so.
It doesn't look like anything.
Yeah, I know, I think it's
And it
gonna
looks
be neat.
really neat.
Yeah, it's gonna be neat.
It's gonna be definitely,
CPUDs, but not this type of.
yeah,
PUDs,
it's gonna be
so,
very
like,
different.
I mean, rear loaded garages
Yeah.
and the houses are up on the sidewalk and
Yeah.
it's gonna look very different.
And all three neighborhoods, remember, are built around park space, and I mean,
Mhm.
everything on here looks really small.
Yeah,
But if you think that this circle right here is the size of Monument Circle in
right,
Indianapolis,
right.
you realize kind of the scale.
It's gonna
And
be.
all three parks will be a
all
different
the potential
theme
to be a neat-
to all of these parks. They'll all have green access and viewpoints to the center. There's more green space that you don't see kind of built in as far as gathering space and other things. That's larger than what you think.
Yeah.
When you think
That's
about,
that's 315 acres.
when you
showing
think
from
about how big
Lake all the
this
way over to.
area is.
Mm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
North Warwick Industrial Park, I just wanna give you guys a couple other updates. So we've talked about Vanguard got all of their final state signatures on their incentives. So we've been working with that team on when to do kind of a public announcement and a potential ribbon cutting on them moving in. We've been waiting and waiting for the final signatures at the state level. That came through. So I'm hoping, between everything we've kind of discussed, certainly in the industrial park, between Phoenix's building, Duck expanding the building, and Vanguard, we may have to make several trips out to North Warwick Industrial Park for stuff that's going on. All of these X's are conversations with Duke about a substation. And that we've continued those conversations that if we wanna serve a large industrial load, we probably have enough power to continue to do warehouses and smaller things. Because we were talking about Project Vivid, that had to have a substation. So we continue to look at where the best place is. We wanted to move it off site A because we have some small developers that wanna put some leasable office warehouse space into the park, which is great on parcels we wanna get moving and get some investment on. They want to kind of start moving as close to finding some space off of this distribution line. So you're kind of thinking in this area. The issue is then we need to make sure if this is our big continuous acreage, we need a utility corridor wide enough for the distribution.
Mhm.
So they need a big connection from the utility line to the substation, and then out of the substation, it's a smaller corridor, but you still need to figure out. How are they going to come? If they're up further north, it's, is it along Industrial Park Drive? If they're down here, remember that Woodward owns this flag lot behind Pepsi. We own this ground here. We've gotta kind of just, no matter what we do to let somebody develop A and B, we may need to hold. And put a new easement in and hold the utility corridor, or else we're kind of gonna be landlocked in getting that power. So those conversations are going on. That's kind of the three things we're waiting on three potential times to go out there and celebrate. We'll continue those
Additional
conversations.
Square footage on the shell building, is that attached to the building or is that separate?
They are gonna go,
Standalone.
no, they're gonna go straight back,
Okay.
straight back with 100. Is the current plan, and they plan to do tilt up concrete like the front. So originally there was a conversation for them to do an L-shaped building and to do a. Steel building with a little bit of nice lower half. Stonework, now they're going with, and they've had priced out going tilt up concrete, and they're gonna go, so it's basically gonna look like a 200,000 square foot building. But
Okay.
it's not a 50-50 split between those companies. German company's looking at 50,000 square feet, and the US plastic company is looking at 150. And they're gonna lease 50 to the German company.
Okay.
So all good news. Let's see, we talked about 61, our thing was about passing through the TIF like we always do. For stuff that predates the TIF. And that is all the slides I have, so any other TIF redevelopment board business? No,
A motion
okay,
to adjourn.
Motion.
I'll second.
okay, we're adjourned. Okay.